Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Broken Not Shattered. It's another Sunday in the house, and if you are here, it's enough to give God all the glory and all the honor for another weekend and another week He has taken us through. Today, my guest is a professional in the healthcare sector. She's a nurse, she's a public health professional, and actually, she is busy doing her thing and making life happen. She's even actually working on her doctorate degree in public health. Um, Welcome for the first time and maybe not the last time, my guest Abosade Ogundimu, who is also known as Abby. So Abby, welcome to our podcast. How you doing, sister?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. Abby, so let's talk about nursing. Everybody that comes into this part of the world from Africa, they always want to become a nurse and they do all this great stuff as nurses. Um, we're going to discuss the public health for a second. Um, Disparities in the public health system is a big issue here in the US. Most people don't talk about it, but the way you're being treated in the hospital most of the times, and I see that also in the UK, is also based on your racial background or in some cases your gender. Um, and that's a big disparity, and it should be a no-no because I don't think that any life is more valuable than the other. As a professional in this sector, share some light in a few minutes, just to take a few minutes, talk about what your own opinion is when it comes to disparities in the healthcare system in the US, please.
As a nurse, I take pride in my profession, but at the same time, I would not be naive to tell you there's no disparity. There's a lot of disparities in healthcare, and it affects people from like low socioeconomic status,
Mhm,
people of minority groups,
mhm.
the African American, the Hispanic, the Native Americans as
Correct.
well. So there's a lot of disparities in the care they receive, the amount of time it takes for them to be able to see an healthcare provider. And some of this causes these people to actually result in death.
Right.
And some of them also result in a long-term chronic disease that is not managed. A simple thing becomes a very big thing,
Mm.
So it's something that needs a lot of attention, focus from different areas, and not just healthcare. I think everybody needs to be talking about it because it affects the whole healthcare system.
Yeah, it does. It has a huge impact on the system. Um, and ironically, when you look at those who are very much involved in the healthcare system in most parts of the world, especially in the Western world, they're mostly people from minorities. The nurses are mostly um, of African or African American descent, or they're Hispanic or Filipinos, or you see the doctors. Some of the best doctors in the world are from those parts of the world, and yet still, when you come to actual exposure to the healthcare, um, like you said, a small thing can easily become a big thing.
Okay.
I like that word. We're gonna stay there for a second. A small thing becoming a big thing. Abby, as radiant as you look and as great as you look, my
Thank you.
sister, a small thing in your life became a big thing.
Yes.
A small thing in your life became an issue that has transformed who you are as a person. Can you take your time and share your story with our guests?
So, about 3 years ago, I was just an ordinary person living my life with my family. Never would I ever imagine that I'll find myself in a situation where I'm going to be wheelchair dependent. So I, of course, do have a back problem, and I needed surgery. So I went in for surgery, and anyway, I had a rare complication. It doesn't happen to maybe 1% of people that has back surgery. So it's called epidural hematoma. Basically, I was bleeding inside my spinal cord, which was causing compression on my spinal cord. So this causes me to have something they call incomplete spinal cord injury. So I became paralyzed. They call it incomplete because I still have some sensation
On your legs,
on my legs.
so you can
Yes.
still feel.
I can still feel some part,
Hmm.
not all of them.
Right.
So because you have some sensation, they call it incomplete. But if you have no sensation at all, they call that complete. So that being said, it's very, very tricky. Incomplete looks like, oh, yeah, you have some sensation. But what types of sensation
Hmm.
do you have? Is it a sensation that is useful to your daily living? Or is it an abnormal sensation? So I do have some abnormal sensation. Um, I can feel on my right leg, but I don't have any feelings on my left. However, I have a lot of spasms on my right. So it's complicated, it's complex. So many people do not understand what spinal cord is. So when you tell them you have spinal cord injury, they have a picture of how you should look. And if you don't look like that picture, you feel like, oh, that's not spinal cord injury.
Right.
It's it's like a spectrum,
Right. Right. Right.
so
Yes. Different levels at different places.
different levels. Yeah, and it depends on the level of your injury.
Mm.
For me, my level of injury is T10. So basically, from my T10 downward, that's where I have my impact. And I am still in therapy. I go to therapy. I was recently discharged from a rehab hospital where I had to go through intense rehabilitation. And I have been going through this for the past 3 years. And spinal cord injury is not just the only thing that I was dealing with. I have another diagnosis that is life changing. It's called Addison disease.
What's that?
It's called Addison disease.
Yeah. What is Addison disease?
So, Addison disease is basically I am not producing cortisol. And cortisol is an hormone that we need for to regulate our body system. It regulates your blood sugar, your blood pressure. It's like your flight and fight hormone.
Okay. Yes.
So I do not produce that. And if you don't produce that, what you have is your blood pressure is not regulated, your blood sugar is not regulated. So you have low blood pressure, low blood sugar, and then you go into Addison crisis, which can lead to a lot of things, including death. And for me, I was lucky they found I was in the hospital when I was diagnosed. So they found me unconscious. So they were able to do all those stuff and were able to diagnose me, and I was able to get treatment that I need. So basically I have to live on steroid for the rest of my life.
Oh wow.
So and if I have to do anything extra, like if I have like an infection or I have to do
Right. Right. Right.
physically like challenging, I have to like take more steroid. And I have to train my kids on how to care for me if they find me unconscious. I have
Hmm.
an I have an emergency steroid injection that they have to inject me before they call 911. It has happened before, earlier this year. In April, they had to call 911 and, I was taken to the hospital and I was placed on life support. So, and also I am a cancer survivor at the same time.
Wow.
So, so everything was happening at the same time for me. But why those things were going on, I have to tell you, one thing that kept me going is my faith.
Wow.
I held onto hope. And I know that the Lord that I serve will never fail me.
He will never.
So that hope, every time I have about 5 near-death experiences
Hmm.
in this few years. And those moments, those moments, what I feel or felt were just the presence of God. And instead of me being afraid that I'm like probably dying,
Right.
I was strong in my faith. I know I'm not going to die. And when people say hope and faith doesn't matter, it does.
It sure does. I
It
mean,
gives you
it
the
sure does.
strength, the courage to keep moving forward. That being said, though, there were moments, and I like to say this so people can understand that I have to grieve.
Of course.
I lost a part of me.
Yes.
I lost a function. I lost something that I was able to do before. Now I couldn't do it. So I grieved. And, you know, people will talk to me and say, oh, trust God. You don't trust God? Did you lose hope? How did you lose your faith? No,
No.
I didn't lose my faith,
No, you did not. You did
but
not.
I am grieving.
Yes.
And I had to go through those emotions. Sometimes I was angry. Sometimes I blame myself. Why did I do this to myself? Why did I agree to do the surgery? Then sometimes I feel guilt because I'm not able to be there for my son is 9 years old now, but he was 5 years old, 5 years old at the time. I was not able to be there for him. So the guilt was eating me. My 20-year-old was in high school. I was absent for most of his stuff during those periods. So the guilt, the hunger,
Yeah.
the blame, it's
Yes.
just like a cycle.
It is a cycle. It's not just a cycle. It's a cycle of bereavement. When you're grieving, it's a cycle. Anger is one of the emotions you feel. Um, uh, Grief is one of the. Sorry, anger. What's the other one that you just mentioned a few minutes ago? Guilt.
Hunger,
Guilt.
guilt,
Guilt.
blame,
Blame.
uh,
Yes. Blame.
ju-
Yes. So you just go through that cycle until you come to the place of acceptance.
acceptance.
Yes, and
And
it takes a
God,
while. Everybody reacts to these things differently. So yeah, sure, I completely can identify with the loss. I can't identify with what you're going through, but I can identify with loss and all you've gone through. Abby, it's uh, it's been a journey. It's
yes.
been a journey, and you have done well with it. I just spoke to you, the energy that you bring, the way your outlook towards life. Um, I'm listening to you, sister. Go ahead.
So, when I so during those period, you have to have people in your corner that understand what grief means. See, when you are sick, it can tear family apart, especially when it's not something that is a short term. When it's long term, it
Yeah,
will tear family apart
correct.
because they are stressed and you are stressed.
Right. Caregivers.
And you are thinking they don't understand you. And they are thinking you are selfish. You're only thinking about yourself. And you're not selfish. You're just consumed by the situation that you are. And if you don't take precaution, you will be consumed totally.
Yeah.
So while I say we have to go through grief and all of that, we also have to know when we need to stop and talk to ourselves. Like, okay, this is it. This is what's going on right now. I have to accept it. I have to move on. It's not easy. It's not one day thing.
No,
I do it every day.
that's correct. That's
Every day that I wake up, I'm like, Abby, this is what it is. And we're going out and we're going to win. I have no excuse,
wow.
nothing to stop me.
Well,
So I
Abby,
can't
let's,
give
Abby,
excuse.
hold on. Let's take a break at this point. I like the words you just said. We're gonna go out every day, and we are going to win. There's no excuse. We're gonna take a short break, and after that break, we'll come back, and then you'll continue with your your story that I think is highly uplifting.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Broken Not Shattered. My guest today is Abby. Abby is out in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and it's been a great 15 minutes conversation with you. Abby has been through a lot. This is why we've called this caption "Breaking Through Barriers." But Abby, like I tell my guests, life is life, and sometimes life just does life.
Yeah.
We don't know how life. If, one of my friends would say, "Life is lifing." you know, we don't know how life decides to life. But one thing I know is that when life throws us a lemon, we turn it around and make
Lemonade.
go my sister. We make some lemonade out of it.
Mhm.
So you have had this big lemon thrown to you: cancer, back surgery, uh, wheelchair bound, paralysis, you name it. But you didn't stop there. What has become of your life ever since? We're going to use the next few minutes to inspire our audience. Your story is phenomenal, so I want you to share it. What have you done with this situation?
So this is what I tell myself. So we are where we are right now. So we're going to get up every day. We're going to go win. We're not going to give up, and we have no excuse. So every day I wake up, I do something. I make sure that my day is meaningful. What did I do today? Because I know whatever I do today will be my future in 5 years, will be my future in 10 years. So if I sit down and do nothing and feel sorry for myself, I'll remain the same. So I started working on myself, mindfulness, taking care of myself, self care, accepting who I am, forgiving myself, and forgiving others. It's a process, but it brings me joy. It's not something that I do one day, it's something that I do every day. Like the Bible says, you have to renew your spirits every day. So
Right,
every day I wake up, I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive others every day,
right.
every time.
So you went back to school.
I went back to school. So I finished my master's degree in nursing in 2020 December. Oh no, my sorry, my public health in 2020, December 2020. And I'll tell you, when I was doing the capstone for my master's in public health, I was in the hospital. I was intubated in the ICU. I was heavily sedated. So they said when they extubated me, I didn't know all this. I didn't remember what happened. They said when they extubated me, the first thing I was asking for was my computer. I need to finish my capstone. I did finish that capstone in the ICU while heavily sedated. I don't know how. So tell me there's no God.
There's God. There's God. There's God.
There's God, yes. But
God.
I did finish that. And, even though the people think she's crazy, but I did finish my capstone and I turned it in and I was able to graduate. This was in August. I was in the hospital August. I was able to graduate that December.
Wow.
So I went back to school 2021 when all this thing was still going on. I was going to the hospital like almost every month. So I went back to school to finish my master's in nursing. So 2021, I finished in December of 2021. So now, what else? I'm not going to stop there. My goal before was to have a doctorate degree.
Oh,
So that has been my goal. So, and now I'm thinking to myself, my dream, I'm not going to let my dream just go away just
wait.
because I
Yeah.
am in this situation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let it just, disappear
Mm-hmm.
because I am wheelchair bound or I am sick.
Mm.
I have no excuse. So 2022, I went back to school.
Oh wow.
So, so I started
What?
my doctorate program in public health.
Wow.
And the reason I chose public health, I said earlier, is because I want to be an advocate.
Wow.
I want to make an impact in the lives of many people. I want to be a social change advocate.
Wow.
So I went back in 2022. Right now, I finished all my coursework, and I am currently writing my capstone. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
So you're almost there.
almost there.
This is a phenomenal story. It goes to show that we shouldn't give up hope. One of the things we do on the Broken Not Shattered podcast, the BNS podcast, is that we give voice to the voiceless. We inspire others and give hope to the hopeless. Most of the time, when people find themselves in very hopeless situations, we make the worst of decisions. But when you see a story like this, it's very inspiring, it's very uplifting. And so you are able to just pick up yourself and just continue to run the race. Uh, if you're not following us on any of our social media handles, this is a good time for me to make this plug. Please join us on at BNS Podcast or at Broken Not Shattered, and you will continue to see what we do and the people we've actually interviewed over the years. Abby, your story is phenomenal. Your story is encouraging. Your story is uplifting. Anyone looking at you will say, "Oh, she's okay," but this is just a great story. However, the story does not end there. You're involved in sickle cell, and you have a reason for that. Share with our audience why you're also passionate about sickle cell.
So I have a child living with sickle cell disease, and it is a disease that affects blood. It's a blood disorder, genetic disorder.
Correct. Correct. Yes. You need some water. Take
Excuse
your
me.
time. Yeah, take your time, please. Take your time. Take your time.
So so I have a child living with sickle cell disease, and sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder.
Correct.
And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about it is that the disparities
Yes, Sally.
in the care of people living with sickle cell disease is just too much.
Yeah.
The health outcome of this population is so poor.
Yes.
And when I compare sickle cell disease with another genetic disorder called cystic fibrosis,
Okay. Okay.
there are more people living with sickle cell disease than people living with cystic fibrosis. But there's more research on cystic fibrosis than it is on sickle cell disease. However, that being said, though, we've we have seen a lot of improvement,
Yes, an advancement. Correct.
advancement.
Yeah.
So I currently I work in a research organization.
Okay.
I am a clinical trial coordinator. I work with a big research organization. I am a believer in research. I am a believer in science, and I'm a believer in advancement in our healthcare system. So there's been a lot of advancement in the care, in the research, and in the treatment and care of sickle cell disease.
Yeah, I agree. It's a disease that most of the time affects people of color, black
Mhm.
people, um, and then I've noticed that because of that, in some cases over the years, it wasn't taken as a serious issue. Uh,
Mhm.
when I was in London, I used to live in the UK for years. I was involved with SCAR, the sickle cell anemia research, do a lot of fundraising for them. And so I understand, and I lost one of my good friend,
I'm sorry about that.
yeah, final year University of Jos. He passed away because he had a crisis. Bobby, wherever you are, may your gentle soul continue to rest in peace.
Amen.
Yeah, and so I understand the importance. And I just watched a movie recently, Supercell. If you
Super.
haven't watched,
I did watch
yeah,
that as well.
my
Yes.
kids were like, "Hey, Dad, you gotta watch, you gotta watch, you gotta watch." I'm like, "Okay." And eventually, I watched it, and I could see the message they were trying to pass about sickle cell in supercell. So, thank you for the work you do in that area. You're also a mother of four boys,
Oh, amazing boys.
and family
Amazing
support
boys.
is very key as you're going through this process. Talk about the support you get from the family. And
So my boys, just they step in. They had to grow up so fast. I will
ima-
say that.
I
You
can
know,
imagine.
my 23-year-old right now, when all this happened, it was just him and his younger brother at home. My oldest was back in Colorado, and he stepped in and grew up in a way that I myself was so surprised.
Wow.
These kids are so like resilient, you know. They take me everywhere, all my appointments,
Well done.
they add in the house, they fix this, they fix that. Every one of them has what they do and what they do best when it comes to caring for their mom. And
How old is the oldest?
my oldest is 27 years
And
old.
how old is the youngest?
Youngest is 9 years old.
What is the 9 years old? I want to know what he does.
But
He
you
said, he
ask
said, he
me,
said, he said everybody has a role. What's his role?
everyone has a role, yes. My 9-year-old helped mom put her socks on, put her
Oh,
shoes on.
cute. Oh, cute.
Yes,
So cute.
yes, yes.
Cute.
So it helps me with things like that I cannot do a little bit, and he would just help do it, put my shoes on for me. And also, like, mom, he is very, very caring. He looks at me like an hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, mom, are
Mm-hmm.
you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mom, why are you sleeping? Mom, like he is
He
like
has
my
he has more time to give you all the attention.
exactly. He's just like into me. Like he doesn't want anything to
Yes,
happen to me.
yes.
And and I think he got that from his brothers. He saw
Okay.
the way his brothers were doing, and he just got that from them. And
Mm.
like everybody is like, like. So I'll say like the cycle of life.
Yes.
Sometimes it happen later in life when your kids now becomes your parent. But
Yes.
for me, it happens early
In
for
in the
me.
middle of life.
In the middle of life, my kids, they became like my parents, and they'll tell me sometimes I'm very, very stubborn. I
Mm.
want to do things that I'm not supposed to do. I know.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, oh no, mom, no, you're not. No,
Mhm.
you're not.
Mhm.
They and I'm like, yes, I can. I am your mom.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
mom, it's not gonna work today. You're not going.
Exactly. Exactly. That's I mean, in times like this, you definitely need that family support. As you were talking, I just thought about a cousin of mine. Um, she has had a couple of challenges in her own life, but her youngest son is where she gets all her energy and excitement from. And I'm like, let this boy grow up, please, so before you overmother him. But I can understand your story. As you shared it right now, it just hit home like, yeah, God puts a particular and there's always one. There's always one that always will come in and
Mhm.
smother you and make you feel like, even me as a dad. I have two daughters. The one that always keeps on trying to check on me, make sure I'm good. So there's always one. So God knows what He's doing. He's
Yeah,
not.
and I have amazing friends though. I have
Yeah,
friends like they will just cook and bring because I'm not like able to like really cook by myself that
right.
much. So they will cook, they will bring it home, they will bring it here, some just call me and I have amazing, amazing friends.
Yeah, you need a lot of support in a time like this.
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm glad you've been able to share your story with our audience. I hope you've also been a support to somebody who's actually watching this show, wondering, um, where's my life going to go? Well, guess what? You just heard Abby's story. And if you haven't heard Abby's story, just go back and listen to the full story on BNS podcast and see how inspiring Abby has become, despite all the challenges she's faced in life. Abby, I want you to look at the camera and let God use you to speak to the folks who are going to listen to you now and share a word or two of encouragement to uplift someone's life. You don't know who's watching.
Um, we are all going to go through one thing or the other in life, and it's part of life. So wherever situation or whatever situation that you are at this moment, Just take it, it's life, it's a test. You don't have a testimony without a test. This is going to be your story, and this is going to be your testimony. Just hang on there, keep hope alive, and keep moving. Things will turn around, and your testimony will come.
Thank you so much, Abby. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest. As we wrap up, I want to take away something you said. You said, make sure that every day of your life stays meaningful. To all my guests who are watching from anywhere in the world, Abby's word for this week is make sure that every day in your life remains meaningful, and be mindful, be full in your mind of all your decisions and any way you choose to take life's path. In our famous three words, I want to end tonight's show with love, peace, and more grace. Thank you, Abby, for joining
Thank
us
you.
on the
Thank you
DNA
so much.
podcast.
Bye.
Thank you. See you.